Alright, this is Tim Cain being underestimated. Hello, YouTube. And hello, Twitch. Don't think I forgot about you guys. I love you guys in here.
Hi everyone, it's me, Tim.
Hey, Tim.
Today I want to talk about being underestimated. This is kind of the opposite of imposter syndrome. I did a whole video about it. It's linked below. Imposter syndrome is when you feel like you're not good enough for, for whatever you're trying to do. And I've talked
I
about
know
that,
a
and I've
lot of
talked about
people that
I
have
had
that.
felt imposter syndrome.
I
I
felt it
felt it
before, too.
way further into my career than a lot of people probably thought. But this is the opposite. Actually, it's one kind of opposite. I'll talk about the other opposite later. But the opposite of imposter syndrome is when instead of you feeling like you're not good enough, suddenly there's a lot of other people who feel like you're not good
Or
enough.
the opposite is you feeling like everyone else isn't good enough. It's called ego.
Instead of you feeling like you're not good enough,
Yeah.
suddenly there's a lot of other people who feel like you're not good enough. And it's weird and it's really undermining. And if you have any insecurity whatsoever,
I've
it's
been
super
there.
triggering. But this is something that's happened. Like you're good at something. You know you are. You've been tested on it, or you've already done
Mm-hmm.
things with that skill, and they turned out good. And then it's weird that other people don't acknowledge that or recognize it or whatever. And this happens, and that's what I want to talk about. So I'll talk about things that have happened. This has been happening to me as long as I can remember. I was in high school.
Before we jump into that, one good example was that a company I worked at, they didn't let me prototype anything in Engine. And if you know anything about watching me for the last, I don't know, nearly year now of streaming on this channel, I'm not too bad in Engine. Like, I can prototype some things, I can make systems. I may not be as fluent as other people. I may not be as well organized as I sometimes need to be, especially for non-prototype work. But I know what I'm doing, and I can certainly prototype things. I can document it if I need to. I can communicate that and make many systems. I know how to work with a lot of different aspects of Unreal. And I worked at a company that just, they wouldn't want me in there, or they didn't think that I was as good as I said I was. And it was really fucking frustrating because it was like I was only being hired to do half of my skills. And the other half that I wanted to get better at, working in Engine, I just never given any time or ability to. A lot of jerks out there that don't want to give people their due credit, like Steve Jobs stole tons of ideas from other people. I know for me too, I worked at a company where they didn't want me to learn things because I think they were afraid that by learning those things, I would take other people's jobs. Like, I was pretty open about stating, well, not really. I didn't mind stating to, like, the CEO, for instance, that I thought this other job being done was not being done to the right way that we needed it done. Saying that this person, for instance, is overworking themselves. They're spread too thin, and because of that, the responsibility that they have that's part of my department is not getting done. And we're falling behind, and it's causing an issue for me. So we need somebody to step up and do that. I was like, well, the only person that knows how to do it. We don't have time to teach anyone else, or we don't have money to hire someone else. It's like, okay, but why don't you find out? I can delegate some things to other people. Why don't you teach me how to do it? And it's like, well, no, because we don't have the money, blah, blah, blah. Let me say GT Experience. For Kickstarter, if you pledge something and the Kickstarter is fully funded past 100%, the money will be automatically taken from the card that you use to connect to it. If it does not reach funding, the money is not taken. But it is taken the moment the Kickstarter ends. That's it. And that's why there's scams and Kickstarters, because people will just not release the game. And there are a lot of people that just won't refund or ask for refunds from their bank, or they won't think to do it, whatever.
This has been happening to me as long as I can remember. I was in high school, and I was probably by my sophomore, junior year.
It goes to the developer immediately. The release of the game does not matter. No extra money is made from the release of the game from Kickstarter's point of view. The money goes immediately after the funding is hit. If it hits 100% or more.
Probably by my sophomore, junior year, a lot of my classmates knew it was between me and someone else for valedictorian. I had a picture of me and her. You know, we were tied. We were both getting A's. We got A's and everything. We took the same number of AP classes. We were in the same AP classes. But what was weird, I had multiple teachers who were shocked that I was tied with her for valedictorian. I mean, like openly said to my face,
Why?
I am shocked. One was a very sweet teacher I had. She taught accounting, but she said to me, she goes, "Really? You're valedictorian, but you're so normal. And you hang out with so many different people. I saw you talking with one of the auto mechanic boys the other day." And I'm like, "Yeah, I have a lot of friends here at the high school." So that was,
That's
I
weird.
didn't exactly know what she was getting at. But I had another teacher, an English teacher, and he told me, "Yeah, I'm shocked you're tied with her. I think she deserves it." By the way, we were both in the same English class, his. She got an A, I got an A minus. She was valedictorian.
What? Dude, the teacher actually said that to him? Like, I think she deserves it more. Dude, that's so fucked up. Like, of course, I think there's some prejudice maybe against boys becoming valedictorian, generally speaking. If I'm not mistaken, I think women get better grades than men do, by and large, especially throughout high school. So I can understand there being some bias as being shocked. However, openly stating to somebody that somebody else deserves it more is fucked up.
One of my friends went and yelled at that guy, and I was like, "I do not care." I told him, "Greg, I don't care. I do not care. I've already got into early admission at UVA. I'm going to college. Literally, my entire high school transcript is meaningless.
Just
at
don't
this
mention
point.
it.
No one will ever look at it again." So, by the way, the teacher heard me saying to this in the hallway.
The uni gap is, I believe, around 5% into women's favor currently. I thought it was more than that. I thought there were more women, at least in the US, because I can only specify US statistics. Oh, who gets diplomas? Uh, University grades difference by gender. Let's just use this one. No overall gender differences. Gender field interaction. Higher GPAs in biology, chemistry, and psychology. Females had higher GPAs in philology, economics, and electrical and computer engineering. The women had better GPAs in electrical and computer engineering. That's interesting. Banja Luka. Where was this tested though? Where's Banja Luka? Where the fuck is that? Oh, it's Herzegovina. It's not even US. This one's interesting. This one actually says that boys get higher scores. 1.6 million students. Huh. Interesting. This is a whole different thing that we can look into at some point, but I love looking at stuff like this. Wait, so our more consistent grades is to the left. Girls get more consistent grades than boys in non-STEM. Boys get more consistent in STEM. And overall, girls get more consistent grades than boys. However, oh no, girls get higher grades than boys, but not in STEM. Interesting. That's a whole separate topic we can talk about someday on the stream. Gender differences in education and stuff. It's relatively new. Back when there were more male teachers, boys tended to do much better in school. Role models do matter. Yeah, they definitely do. And I don't think there are enough good male role models these days. Like during the Cold War, when the West was trying to beat Russia in the space race, we invested a ton more into science and education. That makes sense too.
He was a little pissed, and he felt justified. I feel justified in giving you a lower grade if you don't even care about them. And I'm like, okay. Why are you talking then? I just told you I don't care. But it was weird. What bothered me a little was he really underestimated me. He undervalued me. This happened in college. When I went to UVA the very first semester, I was in a scholar program. There was no money attached to it. You just went to a few extra classes.
Oh, thanks, a scholar program. Oh, you're gonna give me a scholarship, huh? No money, but I get to go to extra classes. Thank you. I'm so thankful that you decided to give me extra work for nothing.
And there were a couple people. We were all in engineering school, so the first entering year was very small. There were a couple people who were surprised when I went off to a different class than they did, because they went to the regular one and I went to the scholar one, which was all the students in there were from the scholar program.
Okay.
And they were surprised I was in it, and they weren't. And
Why?
their point was, well, we went to a way better high school. They went to a competitive high school that was near mine that tended to do better in everything.
So like some essentially classism, I would kind of say, but this is what it would be. It's a kind of not. Yeah, it's just classism, but it's not exactly upfront about it.
football, everything.
Scholarship
So
for
they were
first
like,
game
well, we're
day.
obviously better than you. Why were you in that scholars program? And I'm like, I don't know. Take it up with the scholar committee. But I have to go to this class now. Well, guess what? Not only did I do better than them in the scholars humanities class than their regular humanities class, I did better than them in the classes we had together. And they eventually shut up because I was like, they would say things like that. I'm like, really? Do you want to talk about this when you just walked away with a C on that test and you saw what I got? Do you want to get into this again? Are all the tests here unfair? Are all the teachers unfair? Is everything in life just unfair at you? But by all means, keep coming
Go
out.
off, Tim.
Now, bear in mind, at the same time, I was in a math class that was so hard and I wasn't doing well in it. I was calling home going, Mom, I don't think I'm going to make it through engineering school. And so I was simultaneously feeling imposter syndrome and being underestimated objectively and to my face by some of my classmates. It was weird. But then I went to grad school on the other side of the country. And this time I got a scholarship that really did. It paid for room and board and tuition.
Breakdancing
and
scholarship
gave me
system.
money on top of that just to have. It was a crazy, awesome scholarship. Same thing happened. I was with some friends and I was like, oh shoot, I have to go to dinner. And they're like, what? Where are you going? And I said, I just have to go to dinner. And I was walking, and one of them goes, wait, you don't even have a car. And I said, well, it's here on campus. And they're like, where are you going? And I said, it's a scholarship dinner. It's for people who got this scholarship. One of the new friends I made was angry. He was super angry because he was like, I can't believe you did better than me. I think I'm better at this stuff than you, better at computer science. And I'm like, we've been here a month. I said, let's get into this later. We talked about it later. I had a better what were they? I forget what you took. It was one of the SATs. The GREs. My GREs were better than his.
I'm going to tell you this, and whatever you think about Jordan Peterson and what he's become, I think that his book, 12 Rules for Life, is a pretty interesting book to read. One of those in there that I think is very, very relatable and understandable would be surround yourself with people who want the best for you. I would not consider somebody who got angry at my success to be a friend of mine. No way in hell. And I try not to be that kind of person to other people either. I still feel jealousy if somebody were to come in here and say they got an amazing job. Like, sure, I can be jealous, but I'm not jealous in a mean-spirited way. It's not that I don't want them to have that success. It's just I wish I also had that success, right? And I think that's hard. You can't really train yourself not to feel jealous, but you can make sure that you are a good friend for people. I like 12 Rules for Life. I've read it. I think the chapter texts are very good. I think that they are interesting from a philosophical standpoint, and they speak to a lot of personal experiences that everybody has had probably at some point in their life or can empathize with. And I think people that dismiss it for what it is probably don't have very good reasons for dismissing it. Because it is a book about philosophy, right? And that's something that you're old. No, not you're old for life. It's just a book about philosophy of ways that you can kind of orient your life that can have positive impacts. And each of the chapters goes through some stories of how that kind of back up that reasoning behind that rule. So, for instance, there was one about dealing with like emergency management within your life, like stress management or crucial aspects, and to dial in and only worry about the small things until you can breathe normally, get your life under control, and then start to expand from there. And one of the stories he gave was with his daughter, who struggled a lot from a physical point of view. Like she was had a lot of problems with. I forget what exactly the problems she had, but it was something that was really, really bad, and that she may not have been able to recover from. And so she had a lot of problems with dealing with things mentally and getting through life and struggling to kind of grow up. And again, using these real experiences, personal experiences, to underline why he felt that this rule was a good rule for orienting your life and getting your life into control. And so a lot of people do target that book. I don't see what the issue is. They never really seem to have any valid reasons of why that book is not valid or why those rules aren't good rules. They tend to just target Jordan Peterson for who he is. And I think you can target somebody's work differently than you target the person, right? I don't agree with a lot of the ways that certain game developers make their games, or let's say I don't agree with their personal views in life, but they make really good games. Or people who are like making movies or actors, right? They have really shitty takes. A lot of celebrities have shitty takes because they shouldn't be having takes on politics. They should be acting because that's their job. But they do really good job acting, but they don't have very good political views. So I've yet to see any reasonable arguments as to why 12 rules for life, why those are bad ways to orient your life. And yeah, I mean, if you guys have some opinions about why those are bad, why a certain rule is not a good rule, you can say it. It's a book about philosophy, so it's going to be something that I don't think is ever true or false. It just is something we can endlessly argue about. And that's kind of the fun of philosophy, right?
And he was like, mm. Also, we had a class together in algorithms, and the teacher of that really wanted me to be in algorithms instead of AI, which was my chosen major for my master's. And he wanted me to switch, and I was like, I don't really want to switch. But then I ended up with him in a algorithms class, and we had to do presentations. And the presentation I picked was on balancing binary split trees. And I did not know this, but not only did the professor do that was one of his areas of study, but the TA, who was a third or fourth year graduate student, that was the guy he was doing the studies with. And in my presentation, I called out a new German paper that had found a better, more efficient way of balancing binary split trees. And while I was giving the talk, I saw the teacher staring daggers at the TA. And at the end of my presentation, I expected something had gone horribly wrong. He just went, "Very good presentation, Mr. Cain. Can I ask where you got that reference?" And he asked about the German paper. And I said, "It's a brand new white paper. It hasn't been published yet, but it's available online." Now, keep in mind, this was 1988. Finding things online, there was no Google. You had to actually go out and manually find it. I found it at the German university the guy did the paper at. Well, apparently the TA got in trouble over that, and I apologized to him. I'm like, "I don't know." And he goes, "No, it's not your fault." He goes, "I should have found that." But still,
It's weird.
that was really good research. The guy who had been upset that I had this scholarship, he kind of went, "I guess you're pretty good at this." I was like, okay. Same thing happened at Interplay. I got treated like the new guy, even though this was my second game company. The game I was working on, Rags to Riches, was my third game and my second one for this company. I'd worked there as a contractor
I've not
before.
GT.
And then I made GNOME, my OS abstraction library that a lot of other people were using. And, I wrote the engine for Fallout. And I'd so well at the Fallout team management that I was asked to give a talk to the other producers. I was still sometimes treated like the new guy. And it was a strange reaction. I don't know what I did to engender that. And because I want to say something. This sounds like I'm humble bragging. Look at all this stuff I did. But my point isn't that. My point is people have consistently and regularly judged me as some kind of second class person. Like, you're okay, but you're not great.
It's weird. I don't think it's humble bragging to state your experience, right? There's a difference between, I don't know, I don't know how to describe it, but there is a difference between stating your experience and why it leads you to think the way that you do, or to support or defend something in the way that you do. And I use that a lot. It's like, well, I've worked on a game, I've made this mistake, or I've seen game ABC make this mistake, and that's why I want to do something different. There's almost this fine line between stating your experience and it being seen as bragging, and stating your experience and it being seen as backing up your decisions. And I think that in his case, when he's saying, well, I worked on this, I made this, that's just saying, well, I do have a leg to stand on here. He's not saying that he's the best in the world, or that he can't make mistakes, or that there are things he doesn't know about. It's just saying, well, yeah, I've already done this, so I kind of know what I'm doing. I think a lot of that is just the people that you hire. That there's almost, when you hire people at a company, a lot of times there's going to be, and I think everybody can empathize with this. We've all worked someplace where people are trying to get above other people and be the one to get the new position that opens up. So of course there's this internal politics and playing that happens, and I fucking hate that. It happens in a lot of companies where you have those strict hierarchies where people need to move up the ladder because that's how you get better things. God forbid we just separate pay from job title specifically. I don't know why he's gotten so much vitriol. I mean, maybe there was some of it that ties into him being gay, maybe subconsciously. I don't really know. I'm just kind of guessing here. But it's like all these experiences just sound like he's been surrounded by some people that, for some reason or another, wanted him to fail, and I don't really know what it is.
And then they were surprised. They were surprised when not only I did well, I did better than them. And this is what I want to talk about. This is kind of the opposite of imposter syndrome. Not for me. Being underestimated is one form of the opposite.
But maybe it's them feeling imposter syndrome. Maybe it's literally it's them feeling that syndrome and lashing out at the people in order to make themselves feel or think better. Like, it's maybe sometimes it's like when you feel imposter syndrome, of course, maybe you lash out at people, right? You have a lot of that online, especially with people seeing, I don't know, pretty actors on Instagram or something, these pretty people that have all these filters, and they're like, well, she's ugly. It's like, well, okay, we can tell you're jealous, right? That's them feeling imposter syndrome and lashing out directly at people. Or, for instance, people who see other people that are richer, more experienced, and it's like they're younger. Like, well, just stop attacking them and spend that energy trying to become more experienced. That's how you solve the problem. That's how they solve the problem, is because they're actively out there trying to become better instead of sitting online and shitting on people who are better. And I think that what Tim is experiencing is that he has a lot of these great qualities. He worked his ass off, got good grades, succeeded, and other people felt imposter syndrome towards him and lashed out at him for it. What a tall poppy syndrome in the tech industry and games is connected to that. Ever checked out Richard Garriott? I've met Richard Garriott, actually, in real life. Very nice guy. Guys has millions, used to make great games, innovative and all. Nowadays, anything touches fails because he's out of touch with his fan base. I do feel that, yeah. He's a very personal guy and he's worked on some amazing stuff. But that's a whole different topic, BBR. But I agree. I've talked a bit about a bit before. Sorry, I've been streaming a long time. My brain kind of moves too fast, and I've talked a bit about the older people in the industry that often sometimes, like you said, get out of touch of what the game industry is because it changes all the time. It changes every single year. And if you aren't keeping up to date with that, and unfortunately when you have like a life and a family outside of games, which is a good thing, you tend to spend less time in the gaming industry, playing games, keeping up to date with current industry trends, market trends, and what the 18 to 34 market, which is filling up with new people and losing old people every year, seems to want from their games and different genres. So he would not be the first person that has been doing some amazing things in the industry, making amazing games, that seems to not understand how to make games for a modern audience. And I don't know if you can fix that. I don't know if there's a way. I think it's very common, though. We talk a lot about Wayward Realms. I need to speak slower, more methodically, and more legitimately. Shroud of the Avatar, yep. Yep, I do know about Shroud, and you're right, it did start out okay, but then it just kind of didn't become anything special. But these guys who made Daggerfall are making a new open world RPG, and it just seems like it's so out of touch of what people actually want from a game these days. I've already talked about this before, though, but if you're interested, look at the Wayward Realms. I don't know if you're a developer, BBRTK. Look at this Kickstarter and just read it from a gamer and a developer point of view, and realize how ridiculous of an idea this game is. Oh, your desktop software dev? Read this from... I'll just show you. I'll show you one thing. Set in a massive world of over 500,000 square kilometers, with thousands of realistically scaled cities, towns, and labyrinthine dungeons to explore. That's a fun one.
I'm talking for them, because they were suddenly realizing that they were possibly not as good as they thought they were. Yet they had been incredibly overconfident before.
Yep.
And that was tough on them. I realized how tough it was on them, because they realized there was a hierarchy, and I may not have been at the top, but I was above them. And they were trying to take this in. It reminded me very much
They were feeling
of the
imposter
Vampires and
syndrome.
Bloodlines. When you were told to go to the haunted mansion, and you're like, ghosts? I don't believe in ghosts. The haunted hotel, I mean. I don't believe in ghosts. And the person's like, you're a vampire. How can you not believe in the supernatural? And by the way, there's a pecking order, and you're not at the top. And yeah, you find that out later when you encounter a werewolf. But that reminded me of this, that these people were feeling very overconfident. And the way they expressed that was by telling me how not very good I was. And this has happened my entire career. It never stopped. As recently as a few years ago, I was having people tell me, you're not nearly as good as you think I am, as you think you are. And every time someone would say that to me, I'd always respond, I'm curious, how good do you think I am? Because you're presupposing a lot that I walk around going, look how awesome I am. I don't think I do that. But you seem to think I do that, and then you're reacting against this non-existent thing that I do.
Yes, I've had other people tell me that too. One of the places I worked at, the managers mentioned that multiple times, by the way, that I will say it from their point of view. They said, Joey, I know that you think you're the best game designer in the world. And that pisses me off. I hate when people put words into my mouth like that and say that I act in a way that I definitely don't act. And I can promise you, all the people that I worked with on the team knew that I didn't think that way or act that way. It was the managers that thought that way. I still don't to this day know why they thought that way. But it's like, well, guys, you put me in the lead game designer position here. At the very least, in this company, should I not be treated with a little bit of... I don't even know the word to use here. It's not really respect, but I guess it is kind of falling under respect of, I have this responsibility. You clearly thought I was ready for this job when you put me in here, and I want to make sure that this game is made well. So yeah, I need to defend some decisions, but I've never acted like I'm the best game designer in the industry. I'm far from the greatest. I'm pretty damn near the bottom of the totem pole, but I try to be good. I try to make the best decisions I can. So it kind of pisses me off when people not only underestimate you, but when people... I guess when people just put words into your mouth that you've never said. I never even said I was good to them. I said, look, I have this experience as a designer. I use this to inform my decisions, but there's a lot that I don't know. I don't know if there's any better humble way that I can state that I've worked on some things, that I've made some games, but that there's still a lot that I don't know how to do. Maybe there's a better way to say it. I'm sure that there is a better way to put it, but I don't know what it is. Everyone has a perspective. Managers usually sit in a glass bowl or separate office, yeah, and only hear things, make their mind from that. Helps if the manager sits in the same room and actually is a part of the dev team. I agree. I agree. All the best like managers and CEOs that I've worked with have worked in game dev before. Like they've been part of the development team. I know at Red Hook for Darkest Dungeon, the two co-creators were themselves artists and designers on the game, and they've worked in the industry for like 20 years each. At the point that I was working with them, 15 to 20 years. I know at for Forever Skies at Far From Home, the CEO, if I'm not mistaken, and he can correct me if I'm wrong on this, the CEO was a programmer beforehand. And so actually he and I worked together on a couple things, and he was really great to work with. Super humble, super knowledgeable, didn't have a lot of time to do programming anymore, and I think he felt a little bit bad about that. But he just knew things, and when you said, I have this problem and it's going to take us a couple extra days, he was like, okay, I can understand that, no problem. Other places I worked, let's just say they didn't, or that the person above me at one of the companies I worked at, who was my boss for design, had never worked on a game as a game designer. He was a level designer. And so he didn't understand game design problems. So compared to him, I was roughly, 8 years more knowledgeable than he was about game design. That caused a lot of problems.
So unlike imposter syndrome, which I have felt throughout my career, I sometimes realized that what was going on was they were having a moment. They were reacting to suddenly feeling imposter syndrome. And their way of doing it was, my God, I may not be as good as this as I thought. Well, I'm better than you. You're not very good. You're not as good as you think you are. I think that was the person suddenly realizing, I'm not very good at this. So this is what it comes down to. Eventually, you have to be honest with yourself and realize what you're good at and what you're not good at. You don't need to be egotistical about what you're good at.
Nope.
But you don't need to beat yourself up over about what you're bad at. Just recognize there are things you're good at, things you're bad at. Do the things you're good at. Try to get better at the things you're bad at. And if you can't, and there were several things I haven't gotten better at, get good people on your team who are good at those things. Get people who compliment you. Not.
It's just like I've said, it's like I can't do art. I can't make 3D models. And sure, if I spent the next 3 years focusing on that, maybe I could get a bit better. But then that's 3 years that I lose not trying to get better at the things that I'm already pretty good at and I find enjoyable, because I don't really find 3D modeling enjoyable. I like game design. I like systems design. I will find somebody to handle the art direction of our game. I will find somebody to handle the sound design, the UI and the UX. I don't mind trying to get better at that, and learning more about it helps me be a better game designer, but I understand that I have deficiencies, and I just need to find people that I can work well with, and that they can work well in a team that can make sure they can bring their expertise, their knowledge, their passion into the project and own that part of the pie, right? I have my little part of the pie that I can own, that I can be responsible for, that I can try to, do the best to my ability. And I'm okay with giving out the rest of the pie to other team members and saying, hey, I understand this is like 3 to 5 years of your life you will never get back. I want to make sure that the next 3 to 5 years you're working on this game for us, that you can be proud, that you can be responsible, that you can have some authority, some freedom, some creativity to make that piece of pie your own and to own it. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be the best you can do at this point in time. And that when we're done with it, we can all learn from each other's mistakes and successes and help each other grow. Helps to have a little of everything, to know what you're talking about, 100%, especially for game design and like production. Everyone has their specialization usually, but you can be better. Talk to your coworkers if you have experienced, if they've experienced the issues they've been running into. 100%. I know a lot of game designers that don't really take time to learn about what other people are doing in the team, and that is a instant pathway to failure. If you are not understanding the lingo of the coders, the lingo of the sound designers, what tools are they using, how do they use their software, how much time does it take, what are the problems that they have with this pipeline, does somebody actually hate one of the systems that's in the game and want it to change? Sit down with them, talk to them, learn why they don't like it. Utilize everyone else's passions and dreams and successes and failures to augment the way that you handle the development of the game, because everybody is exceptional in some way. Thank you for the follow, BBR.
Hey Tim, you're awesome, but hey Tim, I'll handle writing that dialogue.
Right.
So that's my point of all this.
Hey,
When
take
you
care.
feel
Thank you
yourself
for the
being
follow, and
underestimated,
have fun with your
just
parents.
understand there are things you're good at, things you're not, and that's it.
Yeah, I think that this comes down to like managing your ego, which is a very important life skill that it's an unending bit of work to do, right? Managing your ego it's a daily job, it's a life job. You just need to be able to say, I still suck shit, but I try my best. There are things that I've learned, things that I will continue to learn every day. I still fail, with yesterday, working on Colton Chronicles. We barely made any progress. I failed to find performance, issues for my performances. I couldn't really fix FPS that well. I don't really know why the GPU was being hit so hard and how to fix things. Yeah, but we just try. We just try to learn it. Yeah, you can if you want to hit me up, BBR, on I am Maester Silvio on our Discord server, not Riley the Raptor, of course. Some people do message the bot. Message me, the one that says making Colton Chronicles, and we can get in touch over the weekend. Anyway, this was an exceptional video by Tim. I really enjoyed it. Here's the link if you guys want it. I will end the YouTube recording there. So thank you for watching on YouTube. Bye bye bye. Bye bye.